All right, let's
And then,
get started.
oh, never mind.
Hey Dave, how's it going?
Good, thank you.
So we had some really clever question of the day that was topically related to today's session on evaluation, but I decided to blow that up because I have something more important to explore, which is the vest. Sounds like a Seinfeld episode, but the question is, does the world need the vest? And to provide some context, I have never really understood the point of vests. I've had some.
Are you wearing one right
Yeah,
now?
aren't
Yeah,
you
literally
wearing
right
one?
now.
I've had them at various points in my life, and I've always gotten rid of them because I don't wear them. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I got this beautiful vest from the Rhode Island Blood Center because I'm a good person. In fact, I'm twice as good as all the other blood donors, which is validated right here on this little sticker. If you can see that, it says twice the hero because I give double red. So I got this vest and this and it's a perplexion, if that's even a word. Bailey would probably know. I have this perplexion because I was like overwhelmed with gratitude and just joy because I got this gift. They keep giving me things every couple months now because I've given so much blood, and they're like, we got to keep this guy because they make like $1,000 every time I give blood. So I've gotten sweatshirts. I've lost most of those. I got mugs. I got all kinds of stuff. So I get this vest in the mail, and I put the vest on, and then like immediately I'm like, freaking, my arms are cold. So like my arms are cold. This doesn't make any sense. So my son is like, well, put a long sleeve shirt on. Well, that doesn't kind of. Why not just get a jacket with sleeves if I want that? Because then my torso is hot, and then my arms are different temperatures. So I just don't get it. I think I got to keep this one because it has special meaning, but I doubt I'll probably wear it very much. So that's the question. I'll popcorn over to Nicole. So answer the prompt.
We
Does the
actually are out
world?
of time now. We hope you enjoyed the lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna skip the rest of the lesson.
Thank
This is
you,
more
Sam.
important. Does the
I
world need
would
the best, Nicole?
I would say absolutely yes. As a Alaska resident, I put it like under a jacket to just be like extra warm, but not sweltering. It just like keeps your core warm. Or sometimes I'll go hiking with just a vest because a jacket is too hot, but no vest is not enough.
Here, here.
And I will popcorn to cat.
I am in support of
Okay, buddy.
Nicole's argument 100%. The only negative thing about living in Cambodia is that it's too hot for me to wear a vest. That's it. That's the only thing I could say. I used to grow up wearing different vests for the days of the week when I was in elementary school. So I had like this black cat vest, a velvet vest, a corduroy vest, and that's what I miss most from my childhood fashion days. So I'm gonna send it over to Dave. What do you think?
Yeah, I think people like them, people don't, so they should exist so the people that like them can wear them all the time.
You got the inclusiveness there. Okay.
Yeah, it's a smarty answer. I'll go with Tracy.
Yeah, I like vests. I think they're good for, warmth without arm bulk, like for mobility and stuff like that. Um, and I will go to Margaret.
I agree. Vests don't put too much in the sleeve of the jacket. Keep your core warm and reduce pit sweat. Now that we're being completely honest. Oh, I'm gonna popcorn to Katie.
Yeah, I'm hardcore all in on the vests, and I wore a lot of vests in high school with like tapestry vests, like romantic era in the 90s. So, yeah, I'm all in on the vests. Maite?
Not really a vest person, but I do wear a vest and when I'm doing fall.
Hmm.
to do that.
Can you just point to whoever you want to pass to because we can't hear you?
Yeah, I said Bailey. I'm not sure.
Oh.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I got
Pointing
you.
would work.
I am currently wearing a vest, in fact. So caribou have this evolution where their circulation keeps their core warm. The blood flows more over their upper body and then less on their legs. And some Arctic animals, wolves have the same thing. So I think this is pretty much our evolutionary um, equivalent, where we're like just keeping the core warm. So I think it's an intelligent design. Who hasn't gone? Alfredo, what do you think about?
No, no best in the Caribbean. But these times, January, we receive it might be useful. We're receiving the effects of the cold fronts that are coming from the States. So right now it's pretty cold and a lot of rain. So vest and rain jacket on. Popcorn too. I think Sam might be the one that hasn't responded
Yeah,
yet.
so I'm actually now interested in everybody's take on tank tops. But I do like vests, although one time I was training on a wilderness, teaching people how to take kids out into the wilderness, and you always like to keep your pack light. And so I just brought a vest as with all this logic of it would, keep my core warm, etc., to lower the weight. And I froze my ass off over the whole 5 days. So somehow the core heat didn't work for me. So I don't wear them as much anymore, at least as a key piece of equipment. But yeah, I'm kind of with Dave. Glad they exist. And every once in a while I choose them.
Okay, so is that everybody? Wait. Tracy, okay. So the score I think is like
10-1.
8-10. No, it's like, well, I count like Dave and Mighty as kind of neutral. So it's like 9-2-1 or something. So apparently I'm the outlier as usual. And that was nice. Like Bailey managed to get a nice dig in there, and implying that I have not evolved and have no intelligence. So that was nice. I liked how you worked that in,
intention.
actually having to say it. That was effective. So, okay, I will give the vest another try, although right now my armpits are kind of sweaty, and maybe they're ventilated, so that's a good thing. And my torso is still warm. So I'm not convinced, but I'm going to give it another try.
And please
All
keep
right.
giving blood.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the other stuff. I guess we're here for this kind of thing today. So today's focus is evaluation. The original question of the day, which was supplanted with the vest one, was how do we know if we're succeeding or not? And I just, that would have kind of segued into this nicely, but it wouldn't have been as interesting. So I'm excited about this lesson. This is one of my favorite lessons because I know a lot of people, I'm sure some of you have anxiety about evaluation. Just hearing the words evaluation plan probably make you think, oh my God, I can't do it. Or maybe you overthink it. And there's good reason to have anxiety for something like this, because it can be being the key word, complex. There are entire courses on this. You can get a PhD in program evaluation. You can get a PhD in obscure statistical analysis, analytic methods. So you can go really deep in this stuff. So the reason I'm excited is because, believe it or not, you all have the tools and the foundation, both kind of the general competencies and the knowledge and some of the content you need to actually create an evaluation plan today. And we're actually gonna do that and help you start your evaluation plan today. So today's agenda is talk just kind of a baseline. What do we mean when we say evaluation? What does it mean? What are some examples of it? Talk about outcome and output measures, so that the measures that you are integral to a strong and valid evaluation plan. And we'll do an exercise about that. And the topic will be some things that are very relevant to some of people here, especially me. And then in small groups, we're actually going to workshop actual evaluation plans for several of your projects. And for those of you whose plan is getting workshopped, you will have a great start on an actual evaluation plan. And the template we'll share is one I've used. Very simple, as you'll see, as part of grant applications that have won millions or multi-millions of dollars. So I hope the takeaway you get from this lesson is that this stuff doesn't have to be complicated to be effective, both in raising money and in actually using it in the implementation of your project. And for those of you whose project is not the subject of the small group exercise, it's all parallel construction. So you'll get what you need to create your plans. So, Kat, you can go to the next slide. Let's just talk briefly about, just so we kind of are talking about the same things and have the same, using the same language and terminology. What is an evaluation and why do we do them? And if few folks just want to go around, just feel free to blurt out just a statement or a sentence, nothing too grand, just things that come to mind. What is an evaluation and or why do we do them?
Well, I would say it's kind of an assessment of whether you're successful in what you're trying to accomplish.
And even just the check-in point, not even at the end point to see if you're successful, but how things are going. It brings people together.
That's an interesting one. Okay, and what do you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I said that because you're communicating, you're sharing it with somebody else, right? I mean, it doesn't do any good if it's just in your own bit. So you're bringing along your partners, your collaborators, your any of that. But
that's a great point.
It's a point of connection.
Yep. I will say that it can do good even if you don't share it, but I think sharing it is also very beneficial. And someone was saying something about data.
I did, yeah. It's like a tool to collect data on project goals.
Mm-hmm.
Helps funders understand outcomes, stuff like that.
Okay.
Or demonstrates accountability.
Oh, I like that. Demonstrate accountability. It's also if you want to do future iterations of whatever your program design is, you can't improve what you're not measuring.
Mm-hmm.
It can demonstrate if you can deliver, like demonstration of preparedness to deliver, context, like capacity, organization capacity, understanding of the problem and measures to successfully deliver.
Great. Those are all great stuff. I think that's a great distillation of what an evaluation is, and what I heard is and these are all correct. It's an assessment. It's a way to, an assessment can be a final assessment. We'll talk about that term in a minute, summative, or it could be a check-in point, as someone mentioned, to see how you're doing, which would be a formative evaluation. So formative just means you're using it to improve your program as you go along. And there's a lot of benefits to it, both internally, which you've mentioned. It helps you to, like Bailey mentioned, it helps you to reflect on what worked and what didn't work so you can improve the next time, the next version of this program. And it's also a great way to communicate to your stakeholders, which could be funders, could be collaborators, could be other individuals you work with or organizations, the effectiveness or in some cases, non-effectiveness of aspects of your work. So it can be used as a tool to generate more support for what you do. And also just as a way to hold yourself accountable. And it's a way for funders to hold you accountable as well. And so just to bring it a little bit down to earth, let's talk about, as an example, how we, Writing for Green, and our facilitators and use evaluation for this program. And when I say program, I mean these training sessions, the training as a whole, and the coaching which you're starting to experience. And some of you have duly noted, insightfully noted some of the things that we do as part of our evaluation. So let's just see if we can identify some of those things. So what do we do as part of our evaluation?
The surveys, probably the softball one.
So there's we have several different surveys, right? Which ones are you talking about? Which one or ones are you referring to?
Well, I guess specifically the ones that we do at the end of the class.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the post-lesson surveys, and as I inferred, there's another survey as well.
I was gonna say, like, sometimes in the beginning of the class, you just kind of like give a free flow discussion time of like, what do we like, what do we not like so far. So it's not like 1 through 10s, but just, I don't know what you call that, but like just open-ended questions.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Excellent point. I want to just pause there for a second just to drill down on a couple of things which are extremely relevant, which you have brought up. One is that, Kat, can you add pre and post surveys as well? So as a separate thing, so pre and post surveys and then post lesson surveys. So we have two different types of surveys. I'm going to group some of these things together. So we have pre and post surveys, which we do before the training, and we'll do after the completion of the training in a few weeks. We also have the surveys directly after the lesson. We also do these check-ins at the beginning of the lesson. So among those three things, which two would you group together? So we have pre and post surveys, that's number one. We have post-lesson surveys, which we do at the end of each lesson, and we have that informal review. Would you group any of those two together and say that they're kind of the category of those two types of methods are similar in any way?
Yeah, the surveys at the end of the lessons and the discussions are formative evaluations to adjust through time.
Yeah, we Alfredo and I talked before the session, so thank you, Alfredo, for bringing that up. No, Alfredo just always knows the right answer, so that's exactly right. So they're both formative. So we use the post-lesson surveys immediately after the training, and you all know they're not private. We look at those, and sometimes we'll reach out to some people individually based on a comment we saw to address a concern. We use those to improve, and to Bailey's point, we try to improve immediately. So for the next session, we'll take things that we learned today, we'll look at the surveys and we'll apply those things to the extent that we can. Next time, we'll take more feedback and do it again. So, and that goes hand in hand with the feedback that we do at the beginning of the session. That actually serves two purposes. It helps you reflect and in our opinion, better internalize and learn the content. If you kind of reflect back on something, I'm sure there's some learning principle that captures that. It also gives us real-time feedback about your understanding of, we know what we intended you to get from the lesson and we wanted it to last. So that direct feedback in real time tells us how well we're doing. If we never ask that question, we're just gonna have to make an assumption. So let's move on. And okay, so other
Aaron,
stuff. And,
could I just jump in real quick, Aaron, and just say, one of the things about this conversation, and you've all brought up the point, is that as with the logic model, as with everything we're doing in this course, the audience for your evaluation should be yourself first, right? You're really trying to measure your impact and efficacy. And then when the grant comes along, you just tell them what you do, as opposed to going to finding the funding source and then saying, oh, I have to create a evaluation plan for this. And the idea is, if we do this thinking in the beginning, when you find the funders, you have the materials and it's just part of your story. And that really, you're the audience first.
that's a great point, because you can always tailor what you've learned to an external audience, but you have to have that genuine, honest information to work from. Can someone summarize for me? So we see summative. Summative as a term that came up in the last brainstorm. What does that mean? Summative versus formative? So you can see how these, they might sound fancy when you just hear them thrown around, but when you actually know what they are, it's not so complex anymore. So formative just means you're kind of using the information to improve as you go. Summative, Bailey?
Oh, I mean, I'm thinking of summative as like the thing you learn at the end, like the summary or the cumulative takeaway from something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that's right in this context, but that's how I know that.
Yeah, like in our context, we want to know whether you have learned the things that we wanted you to learn and develop the skills that we wanted you to develop. And we'll only know that at the end of the training. And a lot of the things that we do are cumulative. So we're not going to see a change in a whole bunch of things because there's so much overlap in this work until the end. Can anyone give me an example of formative and summative evaluations in the context of a classroom? Students in learning?
Like a final exam or a final project is summative, and a quiz, like pop quiz, that's more formative.
Yeah, I think, exactly. Homework could also be considered formative because it's essentially giving the teacher and the student a benchmark for where they're at as they progress towards the ultimate outcome they're seeking, which is to gain competency in third grade math or whatever. So perfect. And how about, so there's a glossary in your course materials folder that has a whole bunch of terms in it. And we used to share that. We don't share that anymore because it's like several pages long. It's a good go-to reference if you want to understand what a term means. We're just highlighting a couple of the really relevant ones, which I think add a lot of value to the work we're going to do today and the work that you'll do in the context of your working in your organizations. Can someone tell me, give like a one-sentence description of qualitative data?
What you describe with words. Although I might have this split.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Well, I'm trying to remember my class. One of them is what you can describe with words, like you're describing the scenario illustriously, and then the other one is how you describe it with numbers. Although at this moment I'm forgetting which one is which.
Yep. Anybody else? You're not far off.
I would say non-numeric and descriptive information.
Can someone give an example of qualitative data? And think of our training, for example. What are some qualitative data that we have in our training? and also keep in mind, like social scientists, I've said this to a social scientist once. I'm like, well, it's just qualitative information. It's like, that's also data. Qualitative information is also, it can be analyzed, but it's different in some ways. So in the context of our training, what would qualitative be?
I was
be
going to say,
like,
just pulling from your surveys, you have like the numbers that we rate are, before and after the class, what did we learn? And then that would be qualitative or quantitative. And then the qualitative are those open-ended questions where you're asking, how do you think you'll apply this? And it's more of a description of versus like an actual number.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Which one is better than the other? She's not gonna
Depends on
fall
what
for
your
it.
needs are. Yeah.
They're the same.
I mean, yeah, it depends on what you're using it for and what you're trying to find out. For formative purposes, the responses you all, and hopefully this will motivate you to give us even more rich responses to the questions, because we do actually look at them and act on them. Even if it's just one data point, a couple sentences that Katie leaves, it may trigger something. You may have an insight that no one else had, even though it's just one data point that may really help us to improve. We're not going to run it through a statistical analysis, right? But it's still very helpful. And the ratings that we do are a way to quantify, and we can do it in a scientific way, how much people learned, because we actually have a statistician analyze these numbers afterwards. We have them look at your ratings, your self ratings before and after each session, and before and after the survey the training as a whole. And that's data that can be analyzed in numbers. Qualitative data, let me just ask you, is there a way to analyze qualitative data? Katie, you have your hand up. Was that? Or anyone?
I
had
had
a
a question.
social site. Oh, go ahead, Katie.
Sorry, it took me a minute to figure out where the mute was. So I was kind of curious about like I always think of qualitative data. You sort of need a rubric, or you need like, something external that you can hold that description up against. And is that something that you would need to develop within an evaluation plan that has qualitative data that you're collecting? Do you need to also have like a rubric?
I'm going to remove the words have to or has to
sure.
from this conversation, because we're not getting into that. We're just talking about what's useful in a conceptual, discussion. That is a great way to look at, the value of qualitative data. Like, for example, I used to do, when Sam and I worked together 30 years ago, after he left me, I started a staff performance bonus system, and it was based on a rubric. And it was qualitative in the sense that I was using my own judgment to judge how people fit within the rubric for their performance and various criteria. But, it was quantitative in the sense that I was assigning a number to those, but it's really just my own judgment. So it's kind of a gray area, but I would consider that qualitative still.
Yeah. And
Quantitative.
just the other thing about
opinion-based,
the rubric,
subjective.
the other thing about the rubric question is we can, to go back to our own surveys, we can say something like 75% of all participants showed an increase in knowledge of, fundraising methods at the end of our training, quantitative. One participant stated, quote from participant, qualitative, right? That there's no rubric. It's just a piece of qualitative words data that's one of you said that backs up and supports the numbers. And so one's not better than the other, because one kind of is the words from an actual participant that can be very powerful. The other says, and by the way, this many of our participants indicated a similar feeling. Does that make sense as the quantitative and how they can be paired and what the difference is or can be?
Let's yeah, so that was, excuse me. I want you all to think about this stuff and reflect on it during this conversation and after. I don't want you to get hung up on stuff because I want you to kind of follow your gut and your intuition, because typically that's good. You know, we're giving you some frameworks to work with and some best practices and some principles, and that's what's gonna serve you well. You don't have to memorize all this stuff. You don't have to have complex rubrics as part of your evaluations. Like, maybe you want to use it at some point, maybe you won't. But anyway, just we want you to be exposed to these things. Before we
Aaron,
go on to,
I have one other comment, because you asked a question earlier, can qualitative data become quantitative data? Has anybody ever seen one of those word maps where there was all sorts of discussions and then all of a sudden AI or whatever creates it into a word map where the words that were mentioned the most are biggest? Has anybody seen one of those?
Yeah, word
That's
clouds.
turning, yeah, word clouds. That's turning qualitative data into quantitative data, right? And it's done through a process of what in public health is called coding, but it's a way that you can, if you're collecting, words from your community that seems like, oh, it's all quantitative, you can actually begin to describe that. I mean, all qualitative, you can begin to describe it as quantitative. And as Aaron says, these are things that probably you already have the data, and it's just a little bit of work to get it done ultimately. And that's what we're going to start talking about.
who can tell me what a measure is? Just a couple more quick definitions, because you're going to need these throughout the lesson today. In your own words. Or even give an example of a measure.
A grade in a class.
Yes. Would that be a, and now I'm going to introduce something else. We use two types of measures: output measures, or just outputs. And the reason I say or just is because outputs essentially are measures. They're just numbers, like number of meetings you attended, right? So it's an output, but it's also the number of meetings as a measure. So output measures and outcome measures. Output measures articulate progress towards the outcome. Outcome measures articulate impact, measure whether you're having an impact. So would your example of a student grade be an output measure or an outcome measure?
Sorry, can you say the the outcome measures impact and the output measures
Progress.
progress. Okay, so a grade would be measuring progress. So I guess measuring output.
You know, interesting. I think I want to hear what other people think of that too, because I'm not sure I have the right answer. I want to hear some other feedback on that.
Wouldn't
I
a
would
grade
have
be an
said the
outcome?
same thing.
Tracy?
Well, it depends.
Tracy, you go first. You were the first
Oh,
one.
I said, wouldn't a grade be an outcome?
But perhaps the grades of assignments are an output because it's telling me how I'm doing along the course. And then the term grade is the outcome? Or is the outcome more like I've made honor roll or I haven't?
I would like to break it. I would like to offer and see what Aaron says. To me, outputs are related to your activities.
Yes.
They're counting your activities, whereas an outcome is counting an impact. So
Yes.
the number of sessions attended, the number of reps you did in a, whatever your activities are, it counts those activities. Whereas outcomes are more related to the impact. So for me, in that regard, a grade is clearly an outcome, whereas maybe the number of practice sessions you did with a student beforehand, that's what, tutoring sessions is an output. Because
Yes.
tutoring is the activity.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it also just depends on phrasing as well. That really matters. So if the grade is your indicator that a test took place, so if you were saying how many grades scored, that would be an output. But if you're
Correct.
saying, the grades have increased, then it's an outcome. It depends on the phrasing. So if you're using it to measure that an activity took place or to be
So
accountable to an activity, it could be
So
an
on
outcome.
on a logic model, the way I look at it is I look and connect my outputs to the left, which is activities, and I take my outcomes to the right or above, which is the impact that you're trying to create.
And I guess the way I think of it, I generally agree with Sam. If the grade is, let's say, the final grade of the term or the term grade, and the outcome target is that student learns math and they get an A, well, that's an outcome measure. Because
I think it's interesting though, because if you're talking about a student's progress over like multiple years versus just one year, I mean, I think it really is like context. Like to Kat's point, I think it can, it depends on the context.
Yeah.
And remember still though, that can be a difference. It can be a difference between output and outcome in that regard. And that can also be short-term versus longer-term outcomes. But Aaron's major point is don't get too caught up in this. If you have a logic model and a logical chain and you're measuring stuff along the way towards that logical chain, you're going to get full credit in that class, quote unquote. It'll be seen great, and don't get too hung up on that because you can drive yourself crazy.
The reason you shouldn't get too hung up on it in Katie's case is because you totally get it, Katie. And you're going through the same thought process and self-deliberation that I know I go through every time I write a proposal. You have to think through this stuff and think through what makes sense. The important thing is that you demonstrated to me, output, I guess, that an understanding of the concept. So I guess that would be an outcome. So yeah. And that's what we're looking for. So that was perfect. Methods. Not a trick question, just want to get this one out of the way. So the measures are how we track our progress. Go ahead.
Second section in the scientific paper that explains what you did.
Section.
Yeah, the measures, the what, the methods, the how.
Yep. So how you're going to do the measure or how you're going to implement your, hi, Sarah. How are you going to do it, basically? So for example, for our course, our output measures our attendance, number of sessions that we do, retention of students over time, and the methods are we keep an attendance log, and we do the surveys, because our measure is, did someone learn or not? The method is doing the surveys. So you get it. It's how you do it. So we're actually just about on time for once. We're going to split up into two groups, and we're going to just go through, we're going to do an exercise. Like, it's probably going to be the funnest thing that you do this whole course. And this is just to reinforce the concepts that we've been talking about for the past couple sessions and today, talking about outcome and output measures. And the reason we're doing that now before the small group work sessions coming up next is because we want you to be super solid on this stuff, because this is the basis for your evaluation plans. So Kat, would you split us up into our groups, please? I think I'm going. So I'm going to be in group 1. Is that right? Is
And you
that,
said
did you have,
Sam and I are staying in the main room, right?
yeah, but do you have it evenly split up? It looks like there's a lot of more people in room 1.
Well, it's just Sam went there. I gotta bring him back.
Okay. All right. Anyway, I'm going. If it seems like there's a mismatch, just fix it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Where am I supposed to go, Kat?
You're staying with me. Sorry, Sam, but I bounced you to room 1
Oh,
for
you
some
kicked me
reason.
out. Okay, good. Well, that's,
I
that's
didn't.
par for the
I
course.
didn't.
It's in,
So Erin
Maybe.
has 5 people. We have 4. So that's as balanced as we can make it. We
if
tried.
Aaron actually goes.
True. What's he still doing here? Very pesky. All right, Sam, you want to take the lead?
Oh, do I? Not really, but I will. I'm not as well prepared as you are, I don't think, on this lesson.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, so you go ahead. I'm here as an expert witness.
Oh no. Pressure's always on, guys. So we have a practice that we're going to do together of looking at an outcome and using it to consider what outputs could coincide with it, and also thinking overall on the basis of that outcome, what would the outcome measure be that you would use if you were running this program to prove that it was successful to yourself and to others? What would be the measurement? And no real wrong answers here. We're just sourcing opinions. And then we'll reveal Aaron's opinion on what he would put as outcomes and the outcome measure. So we can start with the first one. And you can tell this was made by Aaron from reading the first one, where his intended outcome was to become the largest organic garlic farm in Rhode Island. And that would make Aaron happy. So make him happy. And so if you were thinking about trying to make the most successful, the largest garlic farm in Rhode Island, what are some outputs that you would aim to see or aim to work on that would help you achieve this outcome?
Maybe the measure of how many, I don't know, what is it, cloves that you're planting in a given
Very
year, in a
technical, very
season.
technical.
Yeah.
Little clove output.
There you go.
All right. What else do we need for a garlic farm?
What
Access
do you
to
think
market.
now? Go ahead, Sarah.
Acreage.
Access to markets.
Yes. You got to sell it to be
So
successful.
number of markets that you sell it to, basically, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the acreage, right? Number of acres.
Number of employees, maybe.
There you go. So this brings up a point for me. And again, to go back to the last conversation, the important thing is for you to create your definition as you create your plan on all this stuff. And
Right.
then when you see what the funder wants, you might have to readjust and rethink of terminology a little bit, because this stuff is the terminology can be used in different ways. And I think becoming the largest organic garlic farm for me causes questions in terms of specificity, right? Because largest can be defined as just the number of acres, the number of you guys are coming up with it, number of employees, number of sales. So what does that mean? So the outcome lacks specificity. But now just go with it some more if you have other things.
So as a group, let's build some consensus here. When we're hearing largest organic garlic farm, do we want to go by size or profitability? What's our preference?
Seems like profitability makes the most sense to me, but
You imagine he has just a giant garden that makes $0.
yeah.
Okay, let's stick with that. Okay. Okay, so
Uh,
bearing that in
Yeah,
mind,
but
what's going to
the
drive that?
Well,
What
the
did you say?
markets and the output.
Okay.
Markets
So
and the output, right?
Yeah, markets and the
And
output.
number of employees, is that relevant anymore?
well, to
Not
scale
not for
up.
profitability.
Yeah, not for
Right.
profitability necessarily.
No, nor
Right.
is acreage. So
Correct.
Well,
Acreage
you
and
do need the
employees,
land.
no, you
maybe you
don't.
do, maybe you don't,
Okay,
No, you
right?
don't need the land.
fair enough.
Maybe the land and the employees are actually increasing your costs and
True.
decreasing
Yeah.
your profitability. So
Yeah.
this is where the definition in the first place makes some sense, right? Is important.
Okay.
Mhm.
But
But even
could it,
the
sorry.
price may be here. You
Price.
know, you could be selling lots at a lower price, or you could be selling
Okay.
fewer at a higher price.
Couldn't an intended output be your like employee to yield ratio then?
Sure.
That would be if you're, yeah, potentially.
Net
For your
net
efficiency.
net profit per head, you know, these
Right,
kinds of
right.
things.
Yeah.
Although that can
Mhm.
then become an output or that can become an outcome, and that's where it can be a little confusing.
True.
Can I ask about the making Aaron happy and like the relevance of that in our outputs and measures? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah,
Is that
good.
Oh,
Yeah.
what
that
would make him happy?
yeah. So is there
Or
like
how does he demonstrate his happiness?
Yeah, so
right.
how would we measure that in an output?
Money.
I don't know. He's
Yeah, that's true.
uncomfortable with vests, so I don't know if he's really a money guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. A vest for every employee.
And that's where really the qualitative, markers are important, right? When you're measuring somebody's how they feel about.
True.
Remember
I think
that
though,
Yeah,
for
but
garlic farmers, I'm just going to throw out there that that sheer profits are not really the driving force.
right.
Mm,
So
I wonder if profitability is what he means, but that's what we've assumed. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
true.
But about the making him happy, I mean, how do we know that we've achieved that? Like, is it that he's telling jokes, he's in a good mood? I mean, do we even
Yeah.
care about
Well,
that?
well, based on this particular outcome, he's saying that having the largest organic garlic farm is what's going to create his happiness. So if we know and can confirm that we have the largest organic garlic farm, then the presumption is that he's happy because that's what's going to make him happy.
right.
Yeah.
So really
How-
the making him happy is an outcome measure that we then can do. Maybe we
I
should
will.
show the list, Kat, and then
Sure.
And what about any other kind of, where would any kind of public accolade or a proclamation that this actually is the largest one, where would something like that fall?
That's what I just added as another output is that you need to do your background research to have a baseline of what is the situation with the competitors. So it would be like maybe a completed survey or study of what is the current market
Yeah.
situation for other Rhode Island farmers to have something to compare it to. If that's something.
But that seems like an absolute first step for any of that. Like
Sure.
you wouldn't
So-
know how many if you're close. So I guess I'm confused by why now that's on the list.
Because I just thought of it to add on, but I'm not saying that's the order it has to be done. I'm just saying that would be an output of an activity. So the activity would be research, and the output of that is
Okay.
knowing where your competitors
Okay.
stand. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah. Okay.
And this is how
So wait,
Aaron
what's that
defines it.
say? Number of beds prepared for planting, number of cloves,
Can you,
Planted.
and percent of seeds that sprout before winter.
here you go.
Oh, so
So
these
this
are
is
the,
his,
yeah, this is his.
this is his list.
Oh, interesting.
So with his list, he means literally the largest. He doesn't care about money.
It's true. It's he just wants to produce the most garlic of any garlic farm in Rhode Island. So that's his.
But again, I think this is, for me, this is an exercise on let's define our outcomes well, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
totally.
largest can mean a lot of things. And it can mean acreage, number of all those things, gross profit or gross gross income.
Based on the outputs that he has written, we've now discerned that his target was to see himself have physically the largest garlic farm in Rhode Island. And so what would be a way that we could measure that as an outcome?
Some kind of
Yeah,
production indicator metric, organic garlic production.
Exceeding competitors. Okay. Were you speaking? Sorry. Or was it Margaret?
It was me. I'm not. I got tripped up on how you asked that question, and I'm appreciate Alfredo's comment, but I'm not quite sure. So, ask that question again.
How would
What
you,
is the
how would you
outcome?
prove or measure for others that your garlic farm is the largest organic garlic farm? What measurements would you use?
These are actually worded like they're pretty close to measurements. I mean, the number of beds prepared for planting is
Well,
seems like it's that is in itself a measurement, right? It's the
it
metric.
is, but what's it in terms of the numbers? What do you think those lead to in terms of the use of largest in this? So we can look at this and say, well, largest with these outputs no longer means profitability. It no longer means the biggest physically. It seems to be related to what?
Oh, so number of beds prepared for planting is just really a measure of acreage in production.
Right. And so at the end, what do you think the outcome measure is? What do those outputs lead to in a logic model? Right. So if I plant a
Increase
lot of
sales,
beds, what's that?
increase sales, or more sales, more markets than the competitors.
Even more basic.
Yeah, I think
Harvest
not
volume.
necessarily.
More garlic.
Harvest
Yes.
More
volume.
garlic. There you
Increase in
go.
garlic.
Right.
Yeah.
More, you
Yes.
can't have increased sales necessarily without an increase in garlic. So
And
these are
just because
leading
you
to
have an increase in garlic doesn't mean you'll have increased sales.
correct.
Correct.
But an increase in sales can be a measurement of largest organic garlic farm. And that's, again, where that's a little bit. And then we had a whole conversation about making Aaron happy before. And, we were talking about how would we measure that, right? I mean, so you can do a pre and post survey of Aaron's happiness. You can have a farmhand measure how many times he smiles in a week, or however.
And these
however-
would be outcome measures?
That would
How
be
often
an
he's
outcome
smiling?
measure. Yeah, You know, how many jokes he tells,
Yeah, how many jokes he tells.
you know, how often he hugs his wife. I don't know, you know, whatever. You mean, this is the,
I would like to put something in there about how often he wears a vest because
yes, exactly.
it seems like he's not a vest person and he might not be his happiest when he's wearing a vest.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So
then the question is, does he have to be happy in order to put on a vest, or does that or you know, I don't know.
asking the real questions.
But
Okay.
these are silly, these are a little bit silly, and they kind of do show you how it's you're wanting to demonstrate the way you're thinking about the problem.
Yes.
And that is the key here.
So
And
let, oh,
ultimately, go ahead. I'm sorry.
sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, sorry, I just thought you were finished.
Well, no, I mean, I can be, because that's really the point.
I'm gonna go down here and
How are
see
you
it.
how are you thinking about it?
Yeah. I want to just reveal what his thought process was. Oh yeah, he even did want to measure his happiness.
Self-reported. I think he thinks he's a lot more self-aware than he actually is, but that's another story.
Gotcha. So yeah, we're looking at an outcome measure in terms of the yield of the garlic itself. So we were on point, I suppose, but it was hard for us to know what was his target number or the change he wanted to see. So
Right. And then, you know, in your measure, you can say, you can be specific because you know what data source you're going to use.
yes.
Okay? So
In Aaron's
as,
case, he's comparing himself to the other growers in the state.
but the point is, as reported by the Rhode Island Department of Agriculture,
Mm.
or as reported by the Farmer's Almanac, or whatever.
I have a question about so you draft a grant proposal and the audience that's reading this, it seems, well, maybe this is more of a comment. It seems like then it's even more important to really define, like in that outcome, in that original outcome, it's really important to define what largest means.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
That's my point.
yeah, okay.
I think this
Oh,
outcome leaves a lot to be desired because it doesn't really define for anybody what it means until you start reading outputs and outcomes, and then it becomes clear what he's talking about.
yeah.
But we're
Kitty,
also seeing this only one phrase where we haven't read the background and anything else that might give us that context that no, Aaron
Correct.
wants the most garlic
fair.
produced.
I think that's something we touched on the last session as well, was really being careful with word choice as we're developing outputs and outcomes, where we're saying greatest, smallest, largest. And so some of these adverbs and adjectives we're adding in to make sure we're elaborating on that and we're not assuming the knowledge of the reader, to be comprehensive where we can. Do we want to pick, who wants to pick of these other three, which one we'd like to try? We have all of my children.
Let's do the dinner party one. The children one is too stressful.
I totally agree, Margaret. It hits a little too close to home.
Sorry, y'all. We can transition to therapy. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have guests are full and happy after attending a dinner party at my house. Okay.
So what are the
So-
outputs?
Yeah, so keep in mind, this is the outcome. So the outputs are measures leading up to this, the guest being happy and full. So what are some measures that we can do to try to ensure we have this result?
How about the amount of leftovers that there are, indicating that they've eaten all the food? Something to that regard.
Or to flip that on the
Guest.
guest number. You could also say amount of food consumed.
Yeah.
Guest
I would say
retention. How
yeah,
much of them are
that's
staying at the house after 30 minutes or after 15 minutes?
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
How long guests are staying?
Yeah, after dinner's over, how many people stay?
My
I just
public
like
health
Uh,
education will rear its ugly head here. Nobody reports any gastrointestinal disease.
yes. Reports allergies.
mhm.
So number of, or nobody, right? The number of.
Um,
How about the volume, with the amount of, to demonstrate happiness or laughter? Is this a
okay.
solemn group or a
Happiness and
rambunctious?
laughter measures. Um, so like one big laugh for 10 minutes, something of that nature. I think too, a little bit backtracking is that there was some like pre-research done for the party to learn people's food preferences, allergies, etc. So that you're making sure you have the right food there for folks.
But that's not an output, right, Kat? I mean,
No.
that's a process piece, but not an output, I don't believe.
Well, the outcome is that guests are full and happy. So I'm saying that their happiness would be predicated on us providing food that meets their needs.
Agree. I would
Yeah.
argue in this case that the activity is pre-research so that the amount of food eaten is higher, which indicates that they like the food, which then goes to the outcome. So I think
Yes,
that's
I think my wording might have just been a bit off. What I'm trying to say is the pre-research is the activity, but the outcome is that you've have the research, completed research, one set of research completed.
I see.
So
Now
I
get it.
want to ask a little bit more about that, because if we identify a bunch of activities, is it appropriate for the outputs to be a regurgitation that those like check, 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 like activities, conduct the research to see who's got allergies, and then the output is did the research, made the food?
I would say,
made,
what you could say is the output is a menu that
reflects.
closely adheres
Right.
to the research
So it's
findings.
not regurgitating complete the research, it's the output based on the research, the
Yeah,
result
it's
of
the
that
menu.
research,
In this
which
case,
showed
it's
up
the
as a
menu.
menu.
Yeah, it could be, but there's going to be examples when you're doing a project where you say we have quarterly survey sessions, and then your output would be 4 survey sessions were conducted. So it's not regurgitated, it's putting a measure to that activity.
Correct.
But you wouldn't put that number in the activity that I'm going to conduct for, and then those
Well,
are
you're
done. See this?
You don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah, the activity is you are holding survey sessions as part of your program. The measure
Yeah.
is how many survey sessions. That's your output.
That's true. And you could always say 4 analyses of the
Right.
survey session results if you want to make it a little bit different. But it is still an output that you're doing some kind of report or whatever based on those things.
Mhm.
I would always like to change it, Margaret, to say what's the purpose and what's coming out of that.
Mhm.
But I do agree with Kat that it is one-to-one aligned in that case.
Can be.
What if
Number
the activity is the research and the output is how much of the food that you made that matches what the research provided?
Right.
Right.
I
Which
think the
is
output is
which
a
is
balanced
basically
and diverse menu.
what's
Yeah.
that?
I think the output is a balanced and diverse menu.
Yeah.
That matches their food preference, because
Right.
the outcome is that they're full and happy, not that they're trying new foods, right? So like if we
Right.
really want to make sure that we're aligned with our outcome, we're providing foods that we know our guests are going to like.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm trying to think
Another
of
one might be number of activities planned and executed for entertainment of the guests.
Like fun and games.
Like, yeah, like thinking about planning, designing activities, and then how many of them were actually implemented during the party.
Yes.
And along those lines, I was thinking plans to have another dinner party, to get together again. Like, this was fun, let's do this again. Indication they want to.
Okay.
Well, is that an output or is that an
Could be more of
outcome?
an outcome, maybe.
Oh, maybe that's an outcome.
Yeah.
So, but you're getting it. You're getting the
Yeah.
pieces here. And I would say like the fun and games, again, that there's a fun and games plan. And then outputs is 75% or 12 out of 16 guests participate in one or more games. Or, build it in that way so that you're measuring what the number is associated with that activity.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Thinking of happiness too, I would say like decorations. Something that like decorations that like 50% approve of, enjoy, something like that.
Comment on.
Yeah. Music playlist.
But again, that's there you
Yeah.
go, 75%.
Okay, yeah.
Again,
Because I was
the
going to say
playlist-
those all feel more like activities to me.
Correct. So
Yeah.
you're right, Katie. You're exactly right. Creating a playlist is an activity. Number of people commenting or dancing
Yeah, I
is
see.
an output.
Right.
Output.
Like,
Got it. Okay.
And the theory is that dancing is happiness. I don't necessarily ascribe to that, but many, many, many people do. I'm the outlier on that one.
Fair. We switch gears a bit and think about what potential outcomes would be. So the outcome measure is that how are you measuring or indicating the guests are full and happy after attending? Margaret had one, is that the maybe behavior knowledge change is that they've learned about how fun your parties are, so they want to come back and do it again by a certain
Right.
percentage of members or something.
So it's track how many people ask for another party or something like that, right?
You could track how many people say that was delicious. I'm so full.
Yeah. Or how many belts are loosened.
Satisfaction indicators, satisfaction metrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why, to me, the initial when we said that the amount of food that's there is leftovers, I would put that as an outcome measure,
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
an output personally, because that's something I'd see at the end that I knew, oh yeah, I had enough food. That party was a hit because they've left.
Yeah.
And that's a measure for me to indicate that the guests were full and happy.
Oh, that's interesting because I was thinking the less leftovers meant the more they ate there and the more happy and full they would be.
Yeah, for me, in my my household growing up, like our big thing is you want to always have more than enough food.
Yeah,
so
right.
if all the food is gone like before the end of the party, that for my family would be like a faux pas. That means you didn't prepare properly. Like you need people
That's
leaving with
interesting.
to-go baggies, or you didn't have enough food.
Yeah,
you could,
or maybe in my thought it was like maybe they didn't really like it so much, but it depends on how much you're preparing. Yeah, so it's an interesting. That's a change. Yeah.
number of people requested taking plates home with them.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, that would do it.
Number of guests RSVPing yes to the next party, right?
Yes.
This is interesting too, because this goes back to that flow chart that you showed us on Monday, Kat, where the amount of food consumed can be both, right? It can be an
Correct.
output and it can also be an outcome. Because there like that is part of the or maybe I'm way off. I don't know.
No, you're right. You're exactly
Yeah.
right. Some of these, the amount of food eaten can be both an outcome and an output. in this case.
Okay.
True.
If
Yeah,
you're saying, if you say that the amount of food you eat is an indication that you like it and that it makes you happy,
Yeah.
right? If you're saying that and that's an outcome, then and then it's both a measure and an output measure of the activity and an outcome.
yeah. I guess it depends on the timeline that you're measuring as well. That's a factor too.
Yeah.
Because for me,
And-
when we were going through, I was struggling though. I was like, how would leftovers be an output? Because I always think outputs are leading up to the outcome. So in my mind, when we're planning this, all the outputs are before the party starts.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So then I was like, how
Oh,
could leftovers be
interesting.
an output?
Huh.
Another possible
Yeah.
outcome could be how many people request a recipe.
Mm-hmm. That's a compliment of the highest order.
But so I want to go back to what you just said, Kat, because it really
Yeah.
twisted my brain.
Yeah. Because I thought outputs were milestones so that they can be measured throughout the
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
And
So
not
it
just
feels,
at the end.
or even not just at the beginning, but like rather like these are touch points throughout the meal that you're kind of
Hey.
watching. Okay.
In case you haven't noticed, we came back, so
Oh.
give you all like a minute to finish up, and then we'll move on.
I think the key here is it is related to the activities, and Kat's answer is neither right nor wrong. It's called a logic model for a reason, and make it logical, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you're just trying to convince yourself first, and then others in your community that this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, leads to this. So could you please support me in doing these activities so that we can get to that outcome? And in the case of this meal, it can be, I think decorations make people happy. I'm crappy at decorations. Could you help me with the decorations at the party? Right? And that becomes the fundraising aspect of this thing. And you've just told people that your decorations, in my experience, make people happy. And so you're now engaging that person in the outcome that you want. And they say, yeah, I do think decorations make people happy. They're buying into your logic model.
Yeah.
And that is the key to this whole thing. And all of the stuff that we're talking about, right, where it belongs exactly, you just lay it out there and it'll work.
Yeah. Just to quickly show y'all, like we have the answers revealed. And yeah, I think something note here too is the outputs are things that are largely in preparation for the party, preparation for the event itself, where the outcomes, some of them are short term, so they're things observed during the party, or it can be things observed after the party itself, if that helps.
Yeah, although
But
I still don't think
interestingly, the amount of food consumed isn't on either of those lists.
It's
So-
yeah.
Well,
there it
but
is. Oh, at the bottom. I missed it. Okay.
And I still think many of the things we came up with as outputs during the meal are fine and entertain, number of people dancing can be an output for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so all right.
This is a way better party than ours. We didn't have dancing or decorations at our party in the other
That's because it was
room.
Aaron's party and Aaron doesn't even like vests.
Yeah, and we were just talking about removing clothing because we were so full. So that's where the party was going.
Removing clothing? Wait.
Yeah, that's where the party was going because everyone was so full.
All right. Probably go to that party. So,
But not
all right.
vests. Everyone had to keep their vests.
No, as long as there's no vests there and no vests required. So that was a warm up for the main activity, which is coming up now. And so we're going to split up into 3 groups, and each group is going to be working on this same document. Kat, can you put the link in the chat? The first page, and this is an evaluation plan template. And when I say this, if we're talking about a grant proposal, for example, this is useful for planning purposes, obviously, but also this is an aesthetic, easy to read format that you can plug and play directly into a grant proposal. I've used this format tons of times, or iteration or versions of it, depending on what the funder asked for. But this type of very simple bullet pointed framework template has been very effective. I've raised a lot of money. So when I say it doesn't need to be super complicated, kind of what you put out there, like the thought that goes into it, yes, complex and a lot of work involved, but the plan that you put out there that's public facing, it's actually better if it's simple. And this is just a manifestation and demonstration of that. The first page is an example for reference. I used Dave's project and just used to the kind of my own through extrapolation or whatever, just filled in some of the gaps here for Dave's project. So if you want reference, you can look at this. And then down below, there's a table for each group, and your team, you'll be, I think, about 3 per team, are to fill in the yellow cells. So I provided you with a program goal up here in the green, and then outcomes, 2 outcomes. One is more quantitative, one is more qualitative, I think. And I want you to plug in the other information. Now, kind of the cheat note here is that you already have this stuff. So when we talk about the logic model has a lot of utility to it and a lot of different aspects of the grant proposal specifically. This is how it relates to the evaluation plan. You already have this stuff. You've already talked about your problem. If you haven't, in some format, some of you have like really kind of worked out, thorough outputs and outcome measures. Some of you have just rough ideas that you've sketched up, but you've all put a lot of thought into them. That just gets plugged right in here into this template. Your outputs go in this column, outcomes go here. The only thing we haven't really talked extensively about is the methods. So whether you're doing surveys or you're doing some type of assessment through a test, or whether you're observing or doing interviews or whatever, that's the methods. And you kind of will figure that stuff out. These
Aaron,
examples.
can I just jump in? Let me jump in on that too. We talked earlier about the line between what you can and what you can't measure. So your measurement methods can just be attendance data gotten from the school, or in the garlic farm, largest amount of garlic produced per Rhode Island Department of Agriculture records. They can just be sources that you use to capture certain pieces of data. You don't have to come up with fancy things for all of your outcomes.
Thank you. Kat, when you make the groups, can you make one group, make sure that these people are in separate groups? So let's see. Bailey should be in a group. Obviously, she's going to be in a group, but we have a Bailey group. She's going to be in group 1.
Oh, okay.
Group 2 has to include Margaret, and group 3 has to include Nicole. Other than that, the assignments can be as you wish.
Okay. Should we keep one of them in the main room, or?
Yes, one group can stay in the main room, and the other 2 groups, separate.
Okay. Give me a moment. I gotta rebuild.
While Kat's doing that, any questions? I think it'll be self-explanatory once you start. See, what I just said kind of discouraged anyone from asking a question, but so forget about the last part. Any questions? Okay, when you see your group assignment come up, join your appropriate room. You're going to be pretty much on your own. One of the facilitators will probably pop in just to see what's going on, but we're not there to drive the discussion.
So if it's I'm leading this group for group 2, so I'm the note taker.
Margaret,
There's
you'll
not
have
leader.
a group for
We
you
put
to
you in
join.
group
Or whatever
3.
group I'm in, but I have a remote taker.
What? Just go to group
Whatever.
3. We'll put you in group 3 because that's the. She's already gone. I don't understand the question.
She's asking if because it's her group, she has to be the note taker or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how do you, since you're assigning people to a group that's theirs, how do the other people interact and how is this supposed to work?
Okay, so if we want to talk, we should go somewhere else so we're not interfering with this group. So, Kat, make a breakout room for us. I'm actually just gonna go to one of the rooms, and you guys go when you're ready.
Okay,
Just don't have
I'll go.
conversation.
I'm gonna go to the Bailey group.
Okay, and just basically observe, answer questions, whatever.
Okay, I'll stay here.
Okay, I'll go to Margaret's group, I guess. Okay, bye.
Okay, so then it's me, Tracy, and Katie to fill this out.
Sure. Yeah. Nope, Katie just left.
Oh.
Katie's
So we
gone.
group 1?
Yeah,
We're
I
group
think
Nicole, which is group 3.
Oh, group 3.
Somebody
So we're gonna
managed to
scroll.
hop into Margaret's group.
They didn't want to be with us.
I don't think they knew. I don't know. How did they do that? I don't know. Whatever. I'm not gonna.
So we're group 3?
Yeah.
We're
By February
Nicole's group.
2027. Okay.
But I don't know. And I can try to move people back, but they can ignore me as well. I've given too much power. I don't know what
All
to
right,
do.
so transport 500,000 pounds of efficient gear, collect the rest so it can be recycled by 2020.
I'll
This
just
is
share
this is
screen.
kind of interesting for me. Am I on mute or no? Yeah, this is
No,
kind
I
of
can hear you.
interesting for me because I don't feel like these outcomes are anything like what I have written for my outcomes. So that's just so interesting, like how different people think about
Yeah.
things.
These are very generic. They're not very smart, in my opinion. They're not
Yeah.
specific enough. I think maybe it's just to make it easier, I suppose, to just think about it more broadly and not feel overly technical at this stage.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Aaron was lazy, one or the other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he doesn't have like the same whatever, like experience with it or that I do, obviously. But um yeah, because so like I've already collected the gear in the program goal, so I'm not really trying to do anything with like fishermen, how do you say, like I don't need to get their buy-in at this point
Okay,
because the goal is that the goal is to ship gear that I've already collected.
okay. The outcome. Okay, so let's revamp that by June 2027. Like X number of loads of gear.
So Nicole, you want to figure out how you're going to transport 500,000 pounds of this fishing gear that you collected in Alaska to Lithuania?
Yeah,
Is that
to
what
be
I'm-
recycled. Yeah.
To be recycled.
Yeah, so I think the second part of it is actually really good. The last one now, since Kat just added that one, because I do want to get some shipping like donations.
Right.
Because this whole thing is like, I don't know, $20,000 like for a container. So if
Wow.
those companies can
Sponsor it.
get bought into the whole thing, it's going to reduce the overall cost of it. So I would say, um, yeah, number of shipping donation. Yeah,
Okay.
received, I think. Yeah, so that's a good,
Oh, wait,
yes.
maybe that would be an output. Sorry.
So you want to target companies that will buy in or donate, so to speak, to help you
Oh,
move this product.
yeah, apologies. Let me write that better as a outcome measure. So the increase of pounds received from local regional transport. And then the output would be pounds received. Okay. Transport, maybe like after meetings that you have with them or after like outreach efforts or something? Is it that would be your activity, or what would be your activity to encourage them or connect with them
Okay, so
to donate?
the outcome is that the transportation companies understand the value of this project. So
Mhm.
basically, what I have to do is like write up proposals and send it to them using all of the things that I have learned in this
Oh,
class so far.
Would that be an output though, instead of an outcome?
yeah. So we're
Yeah,
saying
I
number
think
of proposals sent.
So a
sent to
number of
the
proposals sent.
transportation companies. Yeah. And so I'm going to consider that like emails, phone calls, meetings is all going to be sort of the same thing,
Yeah,
Okay.
right? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
the number of proposals I've written, and then I'm going to call them, I'm going to
Number of
email them, I'm going to meet
meetings.
with them, and basically try to convince them that their participation is going to benefit them in some way.
Yeah.
So I
Uh,
guess would something would be like that they communicate to me that they believe in this, understand in this, that it
right.
benefits them in some way.
So maybe a percentage of um, companies that indicate
Ex yeah,
in
express positive
responses,
support or something.
mhm, that they feel positive about the project. They have like increased knowledge awareness.
Yeah, or just like more than that, I don't want them to just be aware of it. I want them to be like bought into the whole thing.
Okay. So that
You
could be an
want them to
output.
want to participate.
Yeah, I want them to understand like
Right.
why this is important and how it also benefits them to
Right.
support me.
Right. Okay.
Give
Okay.
me an example of how it would benefit them.
Well, I think there is a lot of like pressure on shipping companies to reduce their carbon emissions.
Okay, yeah,
So if they can help support recycling, that
yeah.
generally is like a carbon reducing activity. And
Mhm.
then from reading like on their websites, it also says like we want to support the communities that we serve. So like
Right.
they deliver stuff to like all these remote communities that they say they want to help. And this is like a way of doing that, like getting garbage out of those communities.
Okay.
So it helps them
So
achieve
it's almost like reducing their carbon footprint too, or helping with the reduction of carbon footprint.
of carbon emissions in general, that
Okay.
because they're involved, they could take credit for that,
Oh,
basically.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
I got.
So I'm trying to make it like, what are your goals? and how
Yep.
can I help you achieve that instead of just saying like, this is what I need for me, kind
Okay.
of.
Okay. So that could be formed as a activity where you're doing kind of a presentation mapping or proposal mapping on how you're going to develop a balanced argument. So that could just be like an output be like a creation of a
So it'd
strategy.
be like collaboration though.
Yeah, or multiple strategies to present to
Of
companies.
how we could collaborate, basically. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a good
Right.
way to present this as a collaboration, not just like
Right.
me getting something.
yeah,
Correct.
collaboration concept.
You want them to get something out of it also.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah. Because otherwise, why are they going to do it, right? There has to be
Right. They're
like
not just
some
right,
benefit
right.
for
That
them.
something
Yeah,
has to benefit them.
yeah.
yeah,
So I would say then as an output, you're thinking of like one collaboration concept strategy plan developed.
sure. Yep.
Yeah, something. And
And
then you,
then I'm going to propose that to them through emails, phone calls, and meetings.
mhm,
And then ultimately they're going to say, yep, we'll ship 500 pounds or whatever the number is.
sure. Are you having them sign agreements or anything? Or like I'm saying, like it could be like number of petition signed or contracts signed where they have like
Contracts.
a
Right.
goal or something that you
Yeah,
could use.
normally I just do like MOUs because I don't want it to have to go through a lawyer. So it could
Yeah,
be like number of MOUs signed. Yeah.
yeah.
What's an
Um,
MOU, Nicole?
Memorandum
mem
of Understanding.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So it's basically,
Acronyms.
yeah, basically how it works for me is I just have, it's like a sentence at the top that says like, we're collaborating to achieve this goal. And then it
Okay.
says, this is what Net Your Problem is responsible for and will pay for, bullet, bullet, bullet. This is what the shipping company is responsible for and will pay for. And then you just both sign it. So it's
Okay.
not like a legal contract, like I couldn't sue them if they didn't, but it's very valuable in that you're writing down kind of like what you have agreed to verbally. And so sometimes that like really makes it easy for people to be like, yes, my boss would say yes if I signed off on this kind of
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Food for thought for both of you. Based on the way you described it, I would consider that an output, because we're saying after the presentations are done, one output that we expect to see is the number of MOUs signed if you had a target. So you're saying, I want 50% of the companies that I propose this to sign the MOUs. And that could be an output of your meetings. But then the outcome measure could be what signing the MOU indicates, which is that they understand the benefits.
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That they
Okay.
Yeah.
wouldn't sign it if they weren't on board with the whole program, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Okay. This looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay. So then our outcomes are that, yeah, we're getting donations to move stuff around. The percent of companies that indicate in responses that they feel positive about the project and increase understanding of mutual benefits. Yeah, I like that last one.
Okay. And how are the ways that you feel within your organization's capacity and what makes sense to you on how you would measure those outcomes? And maybe you could go one at a time and consider what tools you would use for measuring those.
Well, if you got rid of all 500,000 pounds, right?
Yeah.
That would be
So this
an
would
outcome
be,
measure.
yeah, increase in the pounds of donations received. So we could just like, we have bills of lading that we fill out when we transport stuff and it has the weights on it. So we
Right.
would know like how much weight was, I guess, don't where the shipping was donated for that.
Right.
Um,
Thank
percent of companies that indicate in responses that they feel positive about the project increase knowledge or awareness.
How would you measure that? By their feedback, obviously, right?
Yeah, I think this is gonna be like if I get 5 emails back and like 3 of them say like, "Yup, Nicole, we're on board with this," like, that it's just like from their email response, I guess.
Right.
Sure. If you're trying to indicate an increase in something, it is good if you have the resources. They don't necessarily have to do a formal survey, but even in times when you're communicating or in touch with the company, if like say like, oh, as a partner, I'd love your feedback, and can just ask them some questions to get some qualitative data that you could use towards this as well. I'm thinking, and particularly for the increase in understanding of mutual benefits.
Right.
Well, I
You
think I have tried this multiple times and they've never said yes. So I already have these
Oh,
emails where it says
gotcha.
like, no, we are not going to give you a donation. So I think, and that has primarily been a result of my for-profit status, which is a large part of the reason why I'm transitioning to a nonprofit. So I think if you're going to think about it, like they have the backy thing right before after control impact kind of design. I feel like I already have like the befores. I already have the no's. So
Okay.
this is now like after my concerted educational campaign. If they change their mind, it's a result of these activities that I'm doing.
Okay. Um, However, I would challenge it a bit that this outcome is about that they understand the value of the project, make it more likely that they'll donate. It's not actually, are they donating? So you could have folks
Oh,
that
sure.
do
Okay.
have an
Yeah.
increased understanding of mutual benefits, but still just don't want to do it.
Right. Okay.
You know
right.
what I
Yep.
mean? Yeah.
Well, I think then we should put in the outcomes, I want them something about that they actually do donate.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm wondering if that might fall under a different outcome, because the way this outcome reads is about comprehensiveness and understanding, not action. You know what I
Not
mean?
actually doing it. Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can add that here, and like we don't have to have something polished, but just to workshop this is that like an expansion of the project to reach our target numbers. And so from there, that would be measuring. Yeah, so then this one would be a better fit under there. So it'd actually be the number of pounds that companies are sending.
So this
The
is like now
beginning.
that they understand it, now that they're actually gonna give me these services.
Right, your ultimate outcome that you want. So maybe the one before is more short term. It's a campaign, an awareness campaign. This
Right.
more
Yeah.
longer term outcome is you want to see your actual project grow to reach your target number. Through company donations. So that again, I think you could reiterate number of MOU signed would still fit that. Number of deliveries from companies. And then this would be like maybe an increase in pounds that companies are sending. Anything else that you think here would be an important outcome towards this outcome measure?
What about that it like gets to the recycling company?
Okay, so that one might be more likely. Seeing the waste reaching the recycling company. Then I would say like You could also measure like increase in companies partnering.
Participating, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think with outcomes, we're always just trying to see a change from the status quo, or maybe you'd want to consider the conversion. Or maybe there's some people who are saying no that you think there's a chance to make them a yes. Or are you pretty sure that it's not worth pursuing, that the folks giving you the no are likely never to change?
No, I think they are likely to change, and I think that is because of my new organizational status.
Great. Okay, great. Okay. So that could be, okay. So that could be an output then. Organizational status changed.
Yeah.
That's the activity. The output is
I
like
got my
one NGO
nonprofit, yeah, determination letter or something.
determination letter. Okay. And then with that, the outcome would be partners willing to support NGOs increasingly joining the project. Okay. That's good too. Okay. Maybe. Is there a way that we can make this into a measurement metric? So are you saying you're seeing the number of instances that a company's
Well, I
providing to
guess
their recycling
if
companies,
you
or
go up to the goal again, it says like 500,000 pounds goes to Lithuania, right?
okay. Yes.
So it would be like the number of pounds that made it to Lithuania.
That
Okay.
reach, right.
Great.
It could
Okay.
could it also be something about like the amount of money that I've saved by not having to pay for this myself?
Hmm. Yeah, let's look at, do you see an existing outcome that would fall under?
Maybe the partners are willing to support NGOs because then it's like they're giving me this for free instead of making me pay for it.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we could change this wording so not just an expansion, but increased sustainability of the
Yeah,
project.
there we go. And then it's that
And
I'm
sustain-
saving money. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The project.
Okay.
So then one of the outputs is like dollars saved.
Saved.
Yes.
Right.
And then the outcome is
That you have more resources
more money for other stuff, kind of. Yeah.
to other program element needs. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then looking at this, looking at these outcomes, how are you going to measure it? I think the first one was the increase in pounds that companies are sending. So one question for y'all. In this first one here, we have increase in pounds received from the local regional transport. And you're saying you're measuring by using the lading with weights to measure the weight. But
Yeah.
is that just measuring how much overall, or do you want to have a metric that's measuring per company how much they're providing?
Well, you would get that on the bill of lading. So the bill of
Okay.
lading
For
is
each company.
provided by the shipping company, and then you just write on there like 3 containers at 40,000 pounds each with the container numbers or whatever. So you that is you could use the same thing to track like each company's donations.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense. And then how about for this next one, the measuring the increase in companies partnering, participating? What would you use or what would you do to measure that?
Um,
The amount of companies you reached out to, maybe? Oh, wait a minute, increase in companies partnering and
yeah,
participating.
increase in, so you'd need like the number before and then the number after.
After, right.
So that, I mean, it's just like a tally. Like AML said yes, Matson said yes, Samson said no. Like you would just,
Yeah,
Right.
you could keep a
yeah.
tally. You could also, with the MOUs, use the MOUs as a way.
Oh, count the number of MOUs. Yeah,
Yeah.
that said that they would be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that coincides with your next one too, which is
Yep.
partners willing to support NGOs increasingly during the project. But maybe you'd need an additional metric for that, where you're asking them, like, are you joining now because I'm an NGO or not? Like,
Yeah, like
so-
why are you supporting this kind of?
Mhm.
So just yeah.
Yeah, maybe a quick question in
Yeah.
conversation or email. Do that. Then you have more resources to contribute to other program elements or needs. How would you measure that?
The amount of money left over?
I'm not too great. Wait, what did you say, Tracy?
Yeah,
I go,
amount of
the
money
amount of
that's
money
left
that you had
over.
left over?
Yeah, and I think I'm not too good at like the bookkeeping, but I imagine for nonprofits that there's like a section that says like in kind services, right? So you have to like send people a letter saying, thank you for your in kind contribution. So you would just like use those letters to kind of tally up the value of the in kind services.
Yeah, absolutely. Just hopping back to the last one. I don't know if we
Yep.
touched on how you discern the increase in understanding of mutual benefits.
Oh, geez.
Increase understanding which way it's going.
It's kind of like a component of the second bullet.
Okay. So
Well, no,
based off of
because
their responses?
yeah, because the second bullet is basically like, yes, I think net recycling is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
The third bullet is I see how this benefits me and now I want to participate. So I think those are different, but I
Okay.
think you would analyze them in the same way. It's basically just going to be like reading their emails kind of and like looking for that kind of language.
Right. And what their feedback was, basically, because you're going to be looking for that.
True. But some of them might not just come out and say it unless like you ask them
Right. How do you,
pointedly.
right. You got to
Yeah.
make them say it somehow. How do you get their feedback positively?
It
How do I
could be.
know if they understand the mutual benefits? Oh, I know. If
How?
they agree to be in like some public communications. So
Mm,
like kind of what I have always thought is like if they agree, then I would like write a newsletter or a blog and say like thank you AML for giving us this donation, blah blah blah. So if they agree to do that, then it
yes.
So you're
means
giving them
that
a plug, in other words. Is that what you're
yes,
saying?
give them a plug.
Okay.
And if they
Yeah.
agree to do that, then it means that they see the benefit for themselves to
Else.
be listed publicly.
Right.
Okay, great. That's a good idea. I like that. And
Yeah.
then that shows that they literally have to get it because that's part of
Right. They have, yeah, because they could say, no, I don't want to be in this. Like, I don't want to be associated with this publicly. And that would
Right.
kind of show the opposite, that they don't think that there's a benefit to them. But if there is a PR benefit to them, then they would agree to be in the public communications.
Which I think that most companies would opt for that. They all like PR.
That's the idea, Tracy. That is the idea.
For real. Just fair warning, I'm closing out the rooms now, so
Oh,
keep
sure. Okay.
them back in.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
You're so
Actually,
right.
we got a lot
I've done
accomplished.
I've done so many events and so many packages that you can offer to companies, and it's so random. Sometimes how people act very negatively to publicity, it's strange. Like you think
Really?
it's free publicity for people, and then it's
Which you would think it was the opposite, that everybody would just jump on that, you know?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, you would think.
everybody.
Hi.
So, Margaret, to finish my sentence, I know you're feeling somewhat frustrated, and that's okay. I see
Yeah.
a beautiful progression in the way things are going. So you're on the right track. So let's do just a quick sharing, and then we'll wrap up. We covered a lot of stuff today. I just want to maybe call on a couple people to give me, or see if there's any volunteers to share a couple takeaways. I'll leave it open-ended.
For me, my biggest takeaway from this session is keep it granular, keep it focused on the actual action. I think this particular model is really easy for me, at least, to spiral into the conceptual and the question of, am I doing it right, as opposed to what am I actually doing? Yeah.
Okay.
Bailey?
I also thought that like really defining the program goal helped, everything kind of flowed from that. And that was really important, that we had a lot of clarity around that.
Just knowing generally what
I
you're
will
doing.
Venmo you the money, Katie, after that. That's good. Thank you.
I would say for
Well,
us, we were coming up with like what the outcome measurements are. And sometimes you got to be really creative in like what you use to say if something happened or didn't, which is challenging for me as someone with a very scientific background. So I think you just, yeah, what is available and what you can use, and that's really the best that you have. You can't design like a whole master's thesis around scientifically determining if something happened or didn't.
Tracy, is your camera on the ceiling?
Pardon? My
She's looking
camera
up at the smoke detector.
Oh,
Anyway, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. So great. Thank you for the feedback. So in some summary, we plan for evaluation because on a most basic level, we want to know, we want to be effective. We want to know that our work is going to make a difference. And the best way to do that is to think through it in advance, because that plan, doing your evaluation plan at the beginning of the process, informs how you actually do your implementation, because your implementation is going to involve who you talk to, how you talk to people, how you collect data, how often you look at that data. That's all going to be part of your work plan, which we're going to get to in your activities next week. And from a planning perspective and a program design perspective, very helpful. And just so you can sleep at night, you're going to have more satisfaction knowing that your work is going to make the impact on the world that you want it to. And from the perspective of getting money, funders this came up, they're going to want to hold you accountable. They're going to want to know that their investment is being used well, and that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And those things should align with their priorities. And again, these are all things are connected that we've talked about throughout the whole course. Being able to do this well, to write an evaluation plan that is concise, that is precise, that is articulate, compelling, and on point, and tracks with everything else that you write in your proposal, is what's going to get you the money. And Kat, can you
And
put
simple, don't forget simple on that list of
Yes.
adjectives.
The
Yeah, I think the other thing just to recognize is when you do this on the front end, it is very transparent to those reading your grants that you've done it on the front end and you haven't just made shit up, pardon the expression. And that's very transparent and not too many people actually do it. And not only will you be able to be more satisfied with, oh, I'm making the progress I wanted to make, you're going to also show funders that you're serious and in alignment with what they're doing.
Thanks, Sam. The survey is in our formative evaluation. Survey is actually used for formative and summative purposes because we'll analyze this at the end of the training, but we'll also look at it later to see how we did. Click that and fill out that survey before you leave, please. And I've got some required reading, actually watching for you all to do before tomorrow. It's only going to take you 1 minute and 24 seconds, but it will be the best part of your day. Does anyone like The Simpsons? If not, it might not be enjoyable, but I implore you to watch it. So, and I'm going to ask you when we come back how this little snippet is a metaphor for this course. So Monday, it's your homework between now and Monday. And next week, it's a little prelude. We're going to be getting into the left half of the logic model on Monday. Sam and Sol will be facilitating that session. So you'll have the content you need to finish up your logic model, planning out your activities, the specific things you're going to do to reach those outcomes, and the inputs or resources you need to do it, which is going to help you create the budget. And then we'll get into the work plan and the budget after that. So a lot of good stuff ahead.
Hey, Aaron, since we just did this whole lesson, I'm wondering now the questions that you guys ask us where it says like during this session, I felt engaged. Does that go back to like you said you would present like engaging content? So now you're asking us that to prove like specific statements that you made in the past when you proposed this?
For that particular question, two things. Again, we kind of talked about this. If we see a low level of engagement indicated in the surveys, we're like, we got to change things. We got to talk less next time. We can have more group stuff or whatever. So we use it in a formative way.
It's a measurement of attitude, knowledge, attitude, behaviors. It's a measurement of attitude during the session. If you don't feel engaged,
yeah, I understand that. But what I'm asking is like, did you say when you proposed this to EDF that you would create engaging, easy to follow content that participants felt was worth their time? And now that's why you're asking us these questions?
Yes.
Yes and no. Like that wasn't part of my proposal to them, but it's important to me. So we do have our evaluator runs analysis on those ratings. So you should choose highly agree to all those questions.
No, you shouldn't. Hey, Nicole, let's just talk about logic model again, right? It's logical that if our activity is a training that ultimately will help you raise more money, there is we can infer that if you feel engaged during the training, that you're more likely to pick up the material and run with it, and then ultimately raise more money. So even though we don't say, oh, the outcome or the output is that they're engaged, there is a logical pathway to say that your engagement leads to the outcome, the ultimate outcome that we're talking about.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
That being said, though, going back to some of the earlier exercises where we were saying questions could be open-ended or interpretive. For some folks, when they're responding to the questions, it might just be that they didn't like the topic but the lesson itself could have been structured in a good way, but some folks might score something less because the topic itself they just don't like. Um, so that's something we have to factor in too as evaluators, is you have to think about what the questions posed. Because if we've structured a lesson similarly 3 times and 2 other times they said, oh, we're super engaged, but maybe this person at the beginning of a budget section was like, oh, I hate numbers, I like to write, and then they score it low, but the structure was the same. We're like, okay, maybe it was the
Yeah.
topic that we just couldn't win because they hate numbers. You know what I mean? So there's some
Right, yeah.
nuance to the scoring too.
But why do you use the same questionnaire each time? Because some classes, it is that you're in a work session, like the class that people had the opportunity to work alone. That reduces our level of engagement, right? So it seems like the questions are forcing me to go beyond what the actual class did. Because in some sessions I am more engaged because I'm taking an active role. In this one I wasn't because I'm so far behind. But so always having that same answer, I find myself just kind of giving you a blasé response because it doesn't fit necessarily the structure of the session.
That's okay. Just answer it the way that you feel. There are reasons, and we don't have time to go into it. And this is the doctoral program that Aaron was talking about before. But as participants, and we're kind of muddying the waters just by talking about this, but as participants, you should just answer it the way you feel on every given day, and don't worry about the rest, right? Like it's all kind of taken into consideration, both in our own conversations about it, but then the evaluators do their own analyses.
True. But Margaret, to your point though, that actually is good to see how responses differ if you're doing individual work versus group work. For some individuals, working individually, individuals working individually, make them feel more engaged because they have the time and space to think through what they've learned. For some people, group work makes them check out because it's too many voices, or they don't feel they're not going to get called on, so they'll kind of take a back seat and not pay as much attention. So it does depend on the individual too, for how you define engagement. And what's up, Katie?
I also just wanted to add, like, I think it's also on us to stay engaged, right? Like as students, as learners, and like I spent way more time outside of class this week than I have ever, and I felt more engaged. And so I think that's something that that we also have to take responsibility for too. Like you know, that's what there's a side of it too that's on us, that we have to, like, if we don't feel like we get it. Kat and Aaron were super responsive in my email requests for help, so the resources are there. So we got to do the work too.
Okay,
Yeah,
really
Sorry,
quick.
unpopular
so much
opinion.
goes into it. So much goes into it, but these questions and comments are indications that you're in. I think it's indications that you're engaged. My qualitative response to that, but at the same time, we're all coming from different perspectives, and
Number
I
of
really
people
appreciate
still
the
here
questions.
at 3:04.
Yeah. So please, we don't want to hold you too much longer or any longer. Please do the survey, and we'll see you next time. And thank you. Enjoyable conversations.
Thanks. Bye, Bailey.